Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to We Are the Voices of Autism. I mean, it's not a national show yet, but you never know. But anyway, welcome everybody. This evening we are here with a very special guest. We hear about autism and that April is Autism Awareness Month, but like me and Jamel was just talking, every day is Autism Awareness Day for
Every
us.
day.
And
Every
mothers always talk about autism. Mothers always go to support groups. Mothers are always there. Not saying that fathers are not, but we are the faces of autism. Mothers, we're just it's always the mother, always the mother. But there are some fathers who are very instrumental. So tonight we have a very instrumental dad who came to enlighten us on a perspective of autism from a father's lens. So welcome, Jamel.
Thank you for having me here. It's beautiful weather outside. I know everybody is enjoying finally some spring weather. So, our attitudes are uplifted. We are heightened, about what's going on in our lives and willing to change and accept the new month. So hopefully this interview will get you guys on the right foot when it comes down to autism and understanding the father's perspective.
So tonight we're just going to have a really open, candid conversation. And for people who don't know, I have on my blue because I am an autism mommy. And this is a conversation between two autism parents, right? And we don't like to say that we have autistic kids, or we don't like to label our children, but that's what it is, the context for tonight's show.
Mhm.
So the first thing I want to say is that for me, and then I want you to elaborate on this. For me, I was able to, as a mother, accept that Jermaine had autism and to accept my child for who he was after I mourned the loss of the child that I thought that I was getting. Because when we're in the hospital, we're looking for 10 fingers, 10 toes, two
Mhm.
eyes, two ears. We don't expect a neurological disorder that we can't see until it shows up later on. So once I was able to mourn the loss of my child that I thought I was getting, I was able to embrace the child that God blessed me with. So talk about when your son was diagnosed and how your process was.
So my son was diagnosed. My son Shane, who is now 14, was diagnosed at the age of 3. So crazy enough to think that's 11 years ago that my son was diagnosed. And it comes with a lot of baggage. So I'm gonna say this: I in the years of me trying to understand myself and understand my son and my position in his life, I use this phrase a couple of times, saying that those autistics, those individuals on the autism spectrum, may be the actual quote unquote normal ones, and we are the ones that are actually exhibiting things that are not normal.
Woo!
You know, like vice versa. Here's a reason why. You can just go by parts of my life. I dealt with a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow, a lot of death in my lifetime as a male from the Black and brown community. It doesn't matter what community you're from. It's inevitable. It is promised to us that people are going to die, that there will be pain and suffering. How you deal with it, though, is the distinction between communities. And I have to say it, and I have to be real. As a Black man, I wasn't taught how to effectively distribute my feelings when it comes down to the lows that I was experiencing due to the fact of being in a single parent household, which was fine because, my mom raised me to the best of her abilities, and shout out to all the single parents doing it. So I was dealing with a lot of life hardships, not having my father around at that point in time when I was younger. Some mental health issues happened with my mom. So I'll be jumping around and fast forwarding through my life. She suffered from schizophrenia, bipolar. Unfortunately, that is a nasty condition of the mental psychosis, which allows you not to trust anybody. And yes, she did not trust her own 16-year-old son at that time. So unfortunately, she kicked me out of the house. And I use this not to brandish my mom, God bless her soul, but really to let you guys understand that I've been in the trenches where a lot of you may be, or may not have been, but know somebody that has. I'm talking about kicked out onto the porch, sleeping on the porch, raining outside, because your mom will not let you in. And this person, my mother, was my best friend. Like, she was everything to me. So fast forward, I had to find my own way. Going through life, trying to understand this philosophy of being a man, what it is to be an alpha man. And I thought I had it. Go to the gym, work out, work. Make money. Court my girlfriend or my future wife. Everything that what is supposed to be laid out, as far as what it is to be a man. Well, time moves on. So many heartbreaks, so many ups and downs, the absence of my mother and father now. So I feel even lost. But then comes my ex-wife, my son's mother, that I do meet. And we were dealing with a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, both of us separately. And now we're thinking that we can actually heal together. But that was a mistake, not only on her part, but as of me. For me to be a so-called man, I should have recognized that I was not ready for that relationship yet, that I had so many things that I had to deal with myself before actually entering this relationship and ultimately a marriage. But fast forward, we decided to get married. We cultivated the marriage with a child. Shane was born. Shane was the actual gift, as you could say, that God gave to me, for the simple fact that his mother, the doctor said that there's a strong possibility that she will have complications with getting pregnant or having a child. And Shane came along and he opened our eyes and heart. Here's the problem. While opening our eyes and heart, me and his mother, I'm still dealing with those issues that I haven't yet buried, or haven't come in contact with head to head, So men, I hope you're listening to this. We are not good multitaskers when it comes down to our mind and our heart. One wins. It's never two. We can't, and you can argue with me up and down. I can sit there and give you so many different examples that you'll be like, wow, I can't believe you're here still and in this position where you're at. We can't. We're not good multitaskers when it comes to both of those. Ultimately, hearing the diagnosis at age 3, due to the fact that I was able to recognize certain behaviors, which I knew after understanding the diagnosis as stemming, that Shane was exhibiting with his trains. Really picky eating. 3 things he ate, which was McDonald's French fries, French toast, and drinking milk. 3 things. So there were so many things that I was picking up on, and I was like, I don't understand what this is. Took him to get diagnosed at CHOP here in Philadelphia, Children's Hospital, Philadelphia. And it's funny because I just recently wrote an article that was published that outlined my exact feelings before going in. And not to dive deep into it, I hope you guys actually take a minute to look at that. But there was points in there where after I pulled up in double parked and let my wife at the time carry our son in, I actually thought about just driving away because it was so much fear that was bottled up in me. I didn't even know how to actually be a good spouse, a good friend, yet alone a good father for the situation, for what's about to come. We fear so many things that we don't understand. And at that time, I was so much of a coward that I just wanted a restart. There was no possible way that my son, me, that alpha male mentality can produce a child that may possibly be on the spectrum or something's wrong. No, not me. Never that.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What kept you from driving off and never looking back?
I'm gonna have to give that 100%. I was going to say ego, but it's a little bit deeper than that. 100% it had to have been God. There was nothing else that gave me the strongest feeling as though I'm supposed to be here. Almost like God was like, how dare you leave this child after you have the absence of both your mother and father from your life? Have I not shown you what you cannot be without me and what you need me for in order to be the man you were. That's like kind of what I was hearing. Like, you don't do that. Don't slap me in the face. Like, God was talking to me. It was 100% God. I needed to face what this challenge was, because there was a deeper understanding that was yet to come for me to understand. But this was the first beginning, the first part of the jigsaw puzzle, as we could say, for me to understand fully what my life to this point right now, what my purpose and my mission is on this planet. As far as I would understand, God already know, but from what I can actually see, understand, and feel in my heart, this was a deciding factor. So I did. I double partnered. I went up there, and I'm working with physicians now at CHOP, remarkably, on how to, I guess you could call it sensitivity training, because when we received the diagnosis, the doctor was just like, yeah, we did the diagnosis and your son has autism. Here's your paperwork. Here's some resources. Good luck. Literally, that's how it was. Unfortunately, there are some parents that are still dealing with that to this day. But there are parents, whether they're moms or dads, that are talking to physicians to try to let them know, please do not forget your humility when you're speaking to us. That is the most important factor. We don't need any of the jargon, the medical jargon. We need you to be as real as possible. We need a friend, a confidant at that point in time, and that needs to be you. So, the medical field, the medical professions and those in it has gotten better. But there's a lot of more work that actually needs to get done as far as getting those physicians on board, as far as speaking from their heart more when it comes down to matters like this. And unfortunately, with their training and their schooling, it's a thin line between doing that and really exploring their heart and compassion when it comes down to news like that. So it's understandable. It's a gray area, but it can be explored. And, as an advocate, I push the envelope to make sure that it is explored, all corners, all possibilities, until it's nothing left. And until we say, all right, well, you know what, this is the mold. This is what we have to stick with. But back to the story after hearing the diagnosis, immediately silence, regret, anger, loss, confusion, hatred. These are the things that I actually felt. And it wasn't even all the way to my partner, but it was also to myself. It was to the big guy upstairs. It was to the world. How could you do this to me, God? What did I do to deserve this? This is not fair to me. I shouldn't have a child like this. These are things and emotions that consistently went through my mind as I'm walking from the appointment down to my car, driving in my car, complete silence, not speaking to my spouse at that time about my feelings. At that time was the time that I really, really became a boy and less of a man, because I couldn't recognize what my son needed at that time. And most importantly, what my spouse needed at that time. How was her feelings? What was she going through? How are we going to attack this together? Some of the common things that are actually being overlooked when it comes down to situations, when it comes into relationships or marriages. These are the common factors that people need to team up together and tackle them together. It's a family unit. You have to act like that.
We talked a little bit at the beginning about, and again, not to, put my son's father on blast or anything like that, but he dealt with it in a different way. He's much more active in his life now. And as I was telling you on the back end when we were talking, that, people were angry with him that would say to me, I can't believe this. And I said, you can't possibly understand how it feels to be a father who has a child who you expected to throw a football with. And this was just my processing of forgiving him and being able to move forward and take care of my child and not be bitter and not be depressed and sad and angry and all of those things. So for me, it was the process of how he had to deal with, he's not going to go to the barbershop and give the brothers a dap. He's not going to throw a football because he doesn't understand the concept. He's not going to be Kobe, and his father's a big sports fan. So I was able to find comfort in saying, you don't get to tell us or him or me how to mourn the loss of the child that he thought he was getting, because there was a death. Like,
Yeah.
there was a death of a child that we expected to get. And again, like you said, driving out of that place, like, what do you mean that you're sending me home with this?
Yeah.
Like, and you have no empathy, compassion, or answers. You don't even know why my son got it. And we'll talk deeper about that, about the doctors and being expert. We're the experts, really, because we deal with it every day. But we'll talk deeper about how do we trust doctors. Y'all don't even know where it came from, or why it happened, or why, how I'm supposed to listen to you. What you want? You want to medicate my kid and all this other stuff. But for me, it was a process of, this man had to deal with this. So from a male perspective, am I okay with accepting it that way for myself? And could that have been a possibility?
Well, I mean, you sort of answer your question also too with your statement. You're saying, hey, it's okay. And quite frankly, it's the same thing that I'm going to tell you. It's okay. You processed it, you dealt with it, and you continued on. The thing about it is that stages of grief are between 5 or 7 stages. Everybody knows that. And if you don't, now you know it's between 5 to 7 stages of grief. The initial 4 stages are the very hard ones. Those are the ones that everybody seems to get stuck around. By you as a woman and the mother of, your child, you and his child, separating yourself from that, that identity, and being able to see in a third person form and say, okay, you know what? This is a little different. How he's handling it, it's a little different, and it's okay. That is what we need as men. And I want to kind of unpack it a little bit more.
Please.
Do we need a excuse for not being around our children? No. You got to man up and you got to be there for your child. Do you need an excuse, or do we need an excuse for treating you bad, not tending to your needs or your wants, or understanding your thoughts? No, we don't need an excuse for that. We need to man up for that. What we do need, though, is in the time of our vulnerability, is a best friend who should be your spouse, who should be your lover, whoever you're in a relationship with. That should be your advocate, your best friend, in the midst of this, and they should advocate for you when needed to other individuals, whether it be family or friends, to say, hey, he's handling it. I have trust and faith in him. The biggest thing that I want autism mothers to know, and there's a lot of stories that I've heard where the dads are just belligerent to anything the child needs that is not there. The first thing I'm gonna direct this to the mom is that we need your support. Okay, Jay, how the hell can I give him the support if he's never done this and this and that to me? He don't even acknowledge our child. I get it. But you have to, and I break it down all the time, spiritual way. You have to understand that when you do wrong by people and you feel that emptiness in your heart and you're always looking for validation, the one that validates you the most to continue to say, hey, I know you're not a bad person, continue on with your life, is your spiritual grounding, whether it be God, whether it be Allah, whoever that may be, it's fine. But that is the person that pushes you further because they know you the best by your spiritual text, whatever that may be. We need that. We need that type of support to sit there and be like, you know what? Yes, you were wrong for leaving me. You're wrong for, pointing fingers at me. You're wrong by not supporting me through this. But I believe in you, and I believe in the man that you can possibly be for our child. Now, men, and the flip side of that, of getting that support, this is the time that you really break yourself down, not go to your boys, not go out and party, not go out and drink, but you really sit down in the house in a quiet space and really break down, who are you? Is this meant for you? Yes. And what is it supposed to bring out of you? What are you lacking in your life right now that this child in this situation is supposed to amplify and supposed to push you and your community and your home to the next level of greatness in this thing that we call life. What is that? So it's a lot of homework that both sides need to be. If you look into the simple diagram that comes down into Christianity, which is my identity, you have God, then you have man, then you have woman, then you have the household and the children. Now, through no ill effect, because some women gets offended by that, do we say that the woman is beneath the man? The woman is actually the most important part of that diagram, because if you took the man out of the equation, that diagram is still intact with the woman actually having a direct connection with God. The thing that happens is that when you input a man, a father figure, that head of household, the woman is there to spiritually, physically, and emotionally support that man. Hey, you're messing up. This family is all over the place. I need you to talk to God directly and gear us to where we need to go as a family unit. Hey, our son just got autism. I need you to really have some time in your prayer closet or speak to the brothers at church on what your next step should be. Or I need you to go to your book, whatever that may be, and just start reading about scripture. Get some enlightenment with that. When you're done getting that, I need you to feed me and the kids on what our next steps are going to be and lead us to that. That's what we need. We need teamwork, 50-50. Was I originally just like, your child's father? Was I originally like that? No, I wasn't. I was trash. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. I was trash, like trash. But what happened was I got broken down to the very lowest level where I was like, oh, I don't have this person in my life. I don't have this. I'm about to lose this. No one likes me. Nobody understands. And who's the person that always believed in me, regardless of anything? My son. And that's when I knew, okay, this fight is not even about me anymore. It's not about what I can do in life anymore. It's more about fighting for him and those individuals like them. Because beknownst to anybody who may be looking at this interview, I actually have a physical ailment called an AV fistula on my right leg. I am deemed handicapped, governmentally handicapped. I am deemed. So all this time going through these ups and downs and having a child and arguing with my spouse at that time and doing the dirt that I was doing out there and doing me and having fun, did I know that I was placed in the same position as my son to be a stronger advocate because I went through it. It's all a plan. It's all a process. Once you start opening up your heart and your mind, you're like, yo, all this time I was being prepped with different things in life, different scenarios, different hardships. Because when my son came along, I know how to navigate him out of it. But my heart grew bigger. It's not about just my household, my community. How can I affect the world with this outlook? How can I uplift more community advocates all over the world to step up, more men who look just like me to sit there and be like, hey, enough is enough. I need to talk. I need to step up. I need to be educated about this. I need to educate others about that. That's what my passion and my purpose is. Every single step that I'd had in life. So yes, you were right. And we need more sisters like you, more women like you to actually do that. Right. Not to sit there and tear us down, not to sit there and be like, all right, well, you know what? I can do this alone. No, there's nobody doing this alone. You got to understand there's nobody doing this alone. The moment you have that mentality where you think you can do this alone, you have failed yourself. Nobody else but yourself.
I had a really vulnerable moment, right? My son had a seizure and it really freaked me all the way out. And I had to humble myself to tell his father that I can't do this by myself. Like I had to tell him like I need you, because I was so scared that it didn't even matter. Because I was like, no, I need you to come to the house, and I need you could come here whenever you want. Like I don't even care. Like I can't do, like you said, it took a really humbling moment. It really took something to happen for me, even though I had accepted and said, when he comes, whatever. He's been in my life more with Jermaine after I expressed to him that I need him. And he said, I don't know what to do. What do you want me to do?
There you go. It's amazing off of that contact that you said, hey, I need you. And immediately his ego and his pride went out the window and said, I don't know what to do, but I'm willing to learn. I think the same synopsis goes that we are looking for physicians too. Jumping back to that too, a real
Yes.
point. As doctors, when you come into the room and are evaluating our child, we don't like to hear the words, I don't know. We want to hear, listen, I'm not sure what's going on, but we are not going to stop until we figure this out together. That's a part of humility. That's a part of taking off that lab coat, unbuttoning that tie, rolling up your sleeves and being like, listen, at the end of the day, when I clock out of here, I'm the same old person just like you. I could possibly have a child in a couple of years that is on an autism spectrum, or I have a child that's on an autism spectrum. What do you need as a parent? This is what I'm telling you as my profession, but as a parent, this is what I would like to do with you. We need more connections like that, real connections like that from the physicians. That was just a bounce back. That as soon as you said that, I had to put that out there. But it's amazing when we start really stripping ourselves and being vulnerable to each other. Speaking about the partnerships between the husband and wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the case may be, we understand our roles even more. We understand the importance of each other and how to lean on each other. And I didn't have that. And there's so many men out there that don't have that they try to make their own lane when it comes to understanding autism. And you have to understand, this is a drive that you cannot take by yourself. This is absolutely a drive that you can't take by yourself. So I do implore, both sides to actually come down from that high horse, from that ego trip, and really strip themselves of that pride and let them know that, their feelings individually and together are acknowledged and understandable. But right now, that is not going to help or benefit the child. What is going to help and benefit the child is teamwork, is understanding this thing called autism, what exactly it is. How are your feelings towards it? Write them down, exchange the information, let each other see your actual thoughts, and then coming up with a game plan. Very important thing. You can't just walk through the wilderness and say, oh, well, you know what? One day somebody will spot us in here. No, you got to have a game plan. What's the next move? Who should we be calling? What's this IEP? What should I know about an IEP? What schools are great for my child? What neighborhoods should I really look as far as moving to a different area for great schools? These are plans that need to be taken in place as soon as you get that diagnosis.
Wow. This. Listen, first, I just really love your vulnerability as a father, because one, black men, and I'm talking we black people, black men have been taught not to be vulnerable, and they have been taught, if you fix it, you do it. What's wrong with you? Why can't you? So to be vulnerable and say, I have a son on the spectrum and I'm an advocate and I'm going to do this and you're going to see my face because I am the face of autism. I have a question. As women, I love Nadine, and we have to say thank you. This interview tonight has been brought to you by Nason's Place, a 501c3. If you would like to make a donation, please go to nasonsplace.org. The money goes right back into the community. There's a lot of big organizations, and not to finger point or anything, that collect millions and millions of dollars that does not get back to the underserved community. But Nason's Place gives every dime right back to the community. So please go to nasonsplace.org and make a donation. No donation is too big. We take thousands and we take pennies. They all add up.
Exactly.
But Nadine is a major support for me. Nason's Place is a major support group for me. I also go to My Goal when I was closer to them, which was another autism support group. And all the time when I went, most of the people who were there were the mothers to come and get the support. Why are fathers not showing up? And what can we do as autism support group to make you guys feel more welcome?
Quite frankly, more advocates like me in the forefront, being seen, being willing to say, hey, I want to put a conference together just for fathers and talk to them. We are systematically, as men in general, programmed to go to work, to provide for the family, to come home, to wake up and do it again. Some points in life, we will, have leisure time and have fun, but we are here to conquer, and we are here to relish or relic and all of our glory. So when I was in this rat race called life, I sat back and I remember when I first started reading the Bible, and I started from the very beginning, Revelations, and I was reading, first came man and Adam and Eve and God, and there was an interesting part where God said, Adam, this land is yours. Do as you must. What you reap is what you sow. And that stuck with me so much because I'm like, even God himself said, listen, this you. You want your place dirty, you leave it dirty. You want your place clean, you keep it clean. Whatever you put in, you gonna eat. You don't put nothing in, you gonna be starving. This is it. So I'm like, great. So we got that part. We go out there, we work as men. What it doesn't say, though, is the fact that we continuously work and work and work and don't benefit from what we are sowing. We are constantly just working and working and working and working. So to break it down from that is that society is making us workhorses, consistent workhorses. And this is how we see perpetuated in media and news. Hey, you want to sit there and get that $500,000 house? You got to work twice as hard to sit there and grind. There's nothing wrong with the hustle and grind. But when it comes down to family time, where are you? How are you active? Men, there is a fine line between being a husband and being a family man. You can be a husband. So you can put a monkey inside of a church and have another monkey and say husband and wife. They're husband and wife. A family man is one who recognizes the distinct needs of every individual in that household and how to handle them by spending quality time, by being there emotionally, by being supportive at any type of event that child or that other spouse may have. How can you do that if you're constantly reaping and reaping and reaping and reaping and reaping and reaping? You're not benefiting from sowing. You're not benefiting from anything. You're not able to enjoy those fruits. And I have that problem now. I'm constantly grinding, constantly just thinking about things that I want to do, projects I want to get going. And sometimes my wife be like, yo, you need to chill. Like, you got to relax for a minute,
You got to pick the fruit.
You gotta pick the fruit. You gotta watch it grow. You gotta nourish it. You gotta just go with the flow. More men needs to see my face, needs to see other advocates' face in order to be comfortable. We don't like to be told that we are not doing a good job, that we don't understand. We hate these words, or that we are not good enough for the opportunity or the issue at hand to kind of navigate, mold it, achieve compliance with it, and then move on to the next level. We hate that. I'm breaking those barriers. So I'm not a college graduate. I'm not a high school graduate. I keep it 100 with you. I got my GED. I worked all my life since 16. That's all I knew was to work. Look where I'm at now. I work a average job. I have been on numerous podcasts advocating for individuals like my son, advocating for men to stick together, to love on each other. I've written 6 books, working on 2 more currently right now. I've released 8 articles worldwide. I'm ex-law enforcement. I'm a firefighter. I have done so many things by allowing myself to just sit back and look at all the things that I have, all the things that I've sowed, and I'm reaping them right now. But most importantly, looking at other individuals who look just like me, who are pushing me positive, pushing me in that positive direction, saying, hey, you know what? You can do this too. You have to follow that discipline, but you can be here too. It's going to require community-based men to sit there and be fed up with what's going on around them, like myself, to stand up in front of other men and say, hey, you are enough, but there's work that needs to be done. That is the bottom line. Men, we gotta understand that, we're not the almighty. We don't know all the answers. We have plenty of questions, but don't know all the answers. The smartest person is the person who asks questions and who denies the knowledge that they think they have. The dumbest person is the one who thinks he knows everything about what's going on in the world and think he can overcome any situation by himself. Always remember.
Wow. Here's another question, because and I'm going to say this, we've all been in early diagnosis. I could say for myself, there's been that point of, embarrassment, not that you ever want to be embarrassed of your child, but when you're going through this process early on, there are moments when you're out and there's outbursts and people are looking and you don't know, you're like, oh my God, my child has autism. How do you even respond to this? What would you say to the fathers who are in this right now, who are going through that embarrassment period? One, I don't want anybody to feel, any mother, any father, anybody to feel bad about being embarrassed, because there is that moment of, in the beginning, you get past that. But what would you say to fathers who are in that mode? Because again, men want their sons to be like women. You know what I'm saying? Like with our daughters, we get the pretty girl, we dress her like us, we do this, we do that. So when you get, I can imagine having a daughter on the spectrum. I can't even imagine that, rather. But that moment where you go to the barbershop and your son might flap and you like, I'm never doing this again. Or you go to the baseball field to try it. Some are not even trying because of the level of embarrassment. What would you say to them? How would you embrace them? Because this is real. Like people will be like, oh, you should never be embarrassed about your child when they've never been down this journey or they've never been on this path. So what would you say to those brothers?
I think you are hindering your growth individually as the father, the role model, by stopping your child when they're doing things such sensory overload issues, when they're flapping or they're stimming. You are here to educate. I think one of the perfect examples that I can bring is so Shane. He's perfect now as far as getting his hair cut. Before, it was a battle. It was a challenge. He didn't like the way the clippers sound, how they feel. He was getting bad vibes from the barber, whatever the case may be. So I remember one time I took him and I didn't sit in a chair this one time, and I put him in the chair, and the barber and him was having a conversation, and the barber was like, excuse me, can I talk to you real quick? He was in the chair. He was like, so I noticed your son is really animated. It sounds like he's like repeating, something he may have seen on TV or heard, which is a common form of echolalia. And I was like, yes. I was like, well, he's on the autism spectrum. So he tends to repeat things that bring him joy in this stressful time right now. And the barber said, oh, that's crazy. He said, that makes sense. He said, so when I'm stressed in life, this is the barber, and I bump some DMX and I'm singing the rap lyrics, I'm decompressing, my stress levels off of something that brings me joy. I said, yeah, it's the same thing. It's just a different form and a different method. And it happens to be labeled autism. And he said, I appreciate that. He said, by the way, the cartoon he's talking about, my son loves the cartoon, so I know exactly about it. I said, yeah. I said, have some conversation with him. You'll be amazed. And they just started kicking and talking and laughing. My son goes to that barber still today. All these years later, 11 years later, he still goes to that barber today. And he can't believe how far Shane has come, but he enjoys the conversations. He enjoyed just having Shane being in that chair and teaching him something. It's the same. People, we're all the same. It's just a different mechanism that we are using to flush out this stress, these fears, and these pains. Man, embrace your child out in public. There's nothing.
Imagine if you were embarrassed.
Exactly. Imagine if I would have been like, oh, you know what? Let me take him out of here and just roll out of the barbershop. Imagine that. Imagine what kind of example I'm setting for my son to be like, okay, well, anytime I do that and people look at me weird, I need to leave. No, you do not. You need to sit there and stand your ground and say, hey, I'm Shane and this is who I am. And that's okay. And allow people to ask you questions. That's another key thing too. Ask questions. Ask them and be open and transparent when you're explaining to the person. Don't be mad. Don't be angry. Be proud of that person and acknowledge that, hey, I appreciate you coming up and asking about my son. This is what this is, or this is how this look. Do you have anybody in your family? I think one of the biggest things that being an advocate has helped me with is with the understanding and the ability to speak to people, just everyday people. Also, those individuals who are doctors, being able to relate to them on a one-on-one level. I can talk to a CEO the same way I talk to somebody from 21st and Diamond Street. It's the same way. It's just how I articulate myself. First thing you got to do is you speak from love. You speak from compassion. I appreciate you actually coming up to me, sir, instead of just looking at my son or looking at me. You know, when we're in restaurants and we have waitresses or waiters, they're like, hey, is everything all right? Do you need anything? Hey, I appreciate your time. You know, my son, he just likes a couple things. TV is a little noisy. Can we turn that down? Yeah, great. Sure. Anything else? These are things that people are exhibiting. It's for you as the father to pick up and calmly adjust yourself and say, hey, you know what? This is what I need right now because my son or my daughter is on the spectrum. Or if you don't want to involve that information, you know, intellectual disability. My child has an intellectual disability. Certain things cause certain reactions. Is there a possibility we can minimize that? Find a way to articulate yourself without being angry. Understand that this is a coping mechanism for them, for every stressor that is in life. What's your coping mechanism? And if you want to sit there and make fun of their coping mechanism, we can draw down a list because nobody is perfect on this planet about how you cope with stress. You know, look at your own self first before you recognize inconsistencies with someone else's coping mechanism. You know, we're all here trying to survive.
Let's go into going from coping mechanisms. Perfect segue into my next question. Where do you go for support?
Bible. Bible and my spouse. The two things that I go for support. The Bible elevates me to an accountability that no other person on this planet can give me. If you are truly attached and aware of what your spiritual calling is, whatever religion that may be, you find in the text of the book that you read in that spiritual grounding to be enlightening for any situation from past to present is still valid. So I read that for accountability first. I understand the laws and the rules behind the words that are used. That's the first thing. Then I check my temperature with my wife to see how am I exhibiting that? Where am I at on that level? How can I be better? Because the closest person to me that God has given to me is the woman that I call my wife. So why wouldn't I entrust that she will direct me the correct way as far as facing my fears and my worries in this world? She is my partner. Those are the two people who I coincide with everything, every decision that I make, every anger, every vulnerability that I may have, any insecurity. I coincide with both of them, God being first and my wife being second. Find your spiritual grounding, man. That is another one of my missions, to place some type of spiritual literature in someone's hand. And I'm not the one to say, oh, well, you got to be a Christian, you got to be a Catholic. That's not my decision. My decision is to pick something of love. And the last time I checked, every spiritual grounding here within positive notation has exhibited the first ground rule, and that is love and compassion for other individuals. I have not read one religious book that says, oh, you got to be mean or ignorant to anyone. So there is no excuse for one to say that they can't find what they're looking for in any of these texts. What you're looking for, the keys to life, long life, is in these texts. Find it, find which one resonates with you, start to be accountable for that, and start to trickle that down to your home. Your eyes will open, your heart will open, your mind will open, you will feel rejuvenated, and you won't even pay attention to half of the stuff and the craziness that goes on in this world. You will want to save it, but you won't pay attention because you know that it's consistent. It's not going to stop, but it will also push you to try to make sure that it doesn't affect those you love, but also the community and strangers that you meet one-on-one.
Man, listen, pass the collection plate. I was about to pass the Cavassier, right? Buster popped in my head. I was going to say pass the Cavassier, but I'm delivered from that. So I'm going to say pass the collection plate around this room right now. So you know the song Pass the Cavassier, because that used to be my thing. So, as our time is winding down, I know you have the awesome show. You have your own show all about autism, and it's for just awareness and all those other things. And as I always ask Nadine, because I love people, because I work with Nadine, and when I first met Nadine was like, "Oh, we gonna do something together," and I was like, "I don't do autism," because I have my own ministries, like I have, and I believe this too, and just speaking in line with everything that you're saying. God told me a couple months ago, maybe a few months ago now, that my purpose is to serve the people that God assigned to me through my gifts, my talents, and my experiences, right? We on this quest for a purpose, whatever. Mm-hmm. And God said, everybody's God-given purpose is the same thing. Everybody out here looking for purpose. It is to serve the people that God assigned to you through your gifts, your talents, and your experiences. Yep. And I love Nadine, because Nadine was like, "Oh, we gonna do something together." And I was like, "No, I do this." And she was like, "Whatever." So I've done a lot of stuff with Nadine about autism, because it really wasn't my wheelhouse. I mean, that is her power. That is your superpower, because we have that thing that has affected us when we go to the world. But I always often ask her the question, and I'm like, you went and found all these resources. Why didn't you just be like, I got what I need for my son? Yeah. And I want to ask you the same question. Like, hey, I know these resources. I did this, I did that. I got myself together. Why was it so important for you to go out into the community and to share and be an advocate and to start the awesome show?
I guess you could say, experiencing what I experienced in life, and I understand everybody has a story and a situation. I often sometimes wish that my life wasn't so hard, that I had a different life, a different upbringing. But then again, I sit back and be like, no, actually, I was just everything was just in time and just the way it was meant to be. But what I don't want people to do is to waste time, because time is something that is not with us. It is against us. And I think about individuals who have passed away before, what we call their time, and what greatness they can be or do on this planet. Once again, it's written in the text. He said, this land is yours. Do what you must. There was no limitations. Hey, you could have this, but you can't be a doctor, or you can't be a superstar. You know what? I don't think you could be the number one basketball player in the world. There was nothing in the text that said that. I don't want anyone going down the road that I went and to feel helpless, to know that that individual or these individuals are going down that road, and for me not to actually want to help them is the biggest upset for my personal heart. And it's also something that holds weighted against me as far as accountability in my spiritual grounding. We are supposed to warn, we're supposed to minister, we're supposed to fellowship with those individuals all over the world, don't matter, even if they're in a different religion, but just tell them, of the dangers if they continue to go down a certain path, or how can I help you be a better person? So it's really a conscious thing, a one-on-one connection with with my mission, my purpose, my passion, like you said, to serve others, seeing that brighter picture about life made me young. Even though I'm going up there in age, it made me young to say, I got plenty of work to do on this planet. It gave me the confidence to sit there and think, I'm not dying soon. And it's crazy because when you grew up in situations, I grew up in North Philly, 17th and Susquehanna, Colorado Street. That's where I grew up at. Most individuals who grow up in an environment like that back in the 90s was like, I'll be surprised if I live past 21. When you start to actually embody yourself in your spiritual text, you're like, I got a purpose on this planet. I got years to go. I'm not worried about death right now. I got moves to make. I got the grind. I got grind season. I got a lot of seeds to sit there and sow out here, So that gave me the courage to sit there and be like, Jamiel, stop worrying about death in yourself. Stop caring about how is this going to affect you? Start caring about how it's affecting the next man down a block. Start caring about how this single mom is breaking down and she's on the verge of committing suicide. Worse, killing these kids because they're on the start worrying about that and how you can actually help these individuals off that ledge, because I helped you, my son. This is God talking to me. I helped you and gave you your son to help you. Now I need you to go out there and be that for other people. That's how I look at it. That's how it is. Once again, accountability on something other than a person. None of my boys, and no disrespect to them, could have ever told me that. I had to hear that and feel that for myself in order for me to be like, this is the path that I'm supposed to go on. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Have you, as mothers, right? Because, and I'm just letting people know the dynamic, how mothers feel and how fathers feel, because we never hear from the fathers. As mothers, there's lots of times we feel excluded, right? Like people don't invite us to birthday parties, or you know what I'm saying? And I read the 4 agreements all the time, because don't assume, it's don't take things personal. So I have to tell myself this all the time. Maybe they didn't not invite you, or you didn't get the invitation because your son was on the spectrum. Have you ever felt excluded, and how do men approach a man who has a child on the spectrum? Have you ever felt excluded? Like, they didn't invite me to the basketball game. I mean, because we do the birthday party, so the fathers don't really do that. But we like, oh, I see these people at the birthday party, and they ain't even anybody tell me because they don't want my kid there because he got autism. Have you ever felt excluded, and how do men, approach like your boys? Because families, my family, it's hard. People don't know how to approach autism, and I want them to know, like, we're not mad at you because you don't know how to.
So it's funny because a couple of weeks ago, I sat down and I was like, my son's about to turn 14. He turned 14 in March. And I was like, I had 2 actual birthday celebrations, like parties for his birthday. One was when he was in pre-K. The other one was when he was like maybe in 3rd or 4th grade. And it was more of a mission for me. Like, okay, I'm going to gather these people around to celebrate my son and his uniqueness. And that's okay if they ask questions or if they seem like they're unattained, because it's teaching my son to just be himself and to celebrate his life on this planet. I stopped getting offended that people won't invite me and my son, because I look at it like, you're missing out on the best thing that God has made on this planet. And I ain't talking about me. I'm talking about my child. You're missing on the best thing since sliced bread, because this child is going to sit there and come in, and he's going to smile. He or she is going to smile at you. They're going to hug you. They don't want no handshakes or no daps. They want pure hugs, lovable hugs. They're going to sit there and they're going to say thank you. They want to sit there and they want to spend time with you and cuddle up with you. It's funny how all these things that I'm mentioning, we get on dating sites and we try to block in every one of these things on what we're looking for in a companion, but yet you want to not invite me and my child. So you know what? It's tough luck for you. But when you're ready to invite me and my child, best to believe we're not holding no grudges, because we're going to bring nothing but love to that party. And we're going to be ourselves, and we're going to sit there and say, we would love to do this again. And we're going to invite you to our next event. So it comes down to the fathers out there saying, are you going to be a victim, or are you going to be victorious in these situations? Are you going to sit there and be like, oh, well, it's my son my son or the daughter is the cause why I can't find a girlfriend, or a boyfriend in a woman's case? No, that's not the case. The case is that other individual is too weak to understand that they have to remove themselves from the situation and just love. It's not about anything else but love. Or are you going to be victorious and be like, yo, I'm going to infect the world with my child, starting at one birthday party at a time, starting at one event at a time. I'm going to let him run around and be free. I'm going to let him or her flap their arms and let them be themselves. You know why? Because that smile that you'll get at the end of the day signifies that they are happy with letting themselves be around people and being who they are and seeing the acceptance of other individuals. You got to remember, you're not going to be here for the rest of your life. Our children are going to grow up into adults. What are you doing right now, men, as the leader of the household? What are you doing right now to ensure that this child is in the right mindset to be the person that they are, but also be strong enough to navigate through all the hurdles in life that are being thrown at them? I'm going to tell you one thing. Your wife, your girlfriend, your significant other can't do it without you, and it's vice versa. You guys need to go at it and make sure that this child comes out on top. I have seen more autistic graduates of college in the past 2 years that I've ever seen in my life. And that goes to shout out to all the parents, all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the autistics themselves for being themselves and never giving up. It's giving me goosebumps because my son is about to go into high school. I can't wait to go to that graduation and shout his name because he worked and he earned for it.
I know that's right. I feel the same way. My son will be 13 on Friday. And I'm so blessed to have you in my life now, because I don't believe anything is happenstance. I believe that Nadine is a connector for a reason. And I believe, I don't know what 14 looks like, but you do.
Yep.
The mother underneath me that just got diagnosed, she don't know what 2 look like, but I do.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. The next person, Nadine, Nasan will be 18 this year.
Yeah.
I don't know what that journey looks like, but Nadine does. She's going ahead of me so that I can have somebody that I could call Jamiel. I could call Nadine and say, listen, this boy around here doing stuff.
Yeah. What's going on? Help me. Yeah. What's going on?
Right. So we have to have community. We have to have understanding. And there's one thing that you said, I'm going to let my child run around a birthday party, and I'm going to let my child. And what I noticed on my journey is that we are so on top of our children.
Yep.
And I'm looking at the normal, and I'm not saying our children are not normal for the sake of the people who are listening. I'm looking at the people whose children who are not on the spectrum, who do not have challenges, whose kids is running around under tables in the restaurant loud, yelling and screaming, fighting and crying. And I'm like, why are you on Jermaine like that when these people are letting their atypical children live their life out loud? They might have a meltdown. A 4-year-old might have a meltdown, or a 12-year-old might get into an argument with their mother in a restaurant or need to be reprimanded. So we have to understand that we can't be so on them because of the people around us that we don't allow our children to breathe. So I thank you for saying, I'm going to let my son run around a party and flap or stem or whatever it is that he going to do, because he just being himself. Like, I went to my little nieces for Easter, and the 4-year-old, she's 4, and her little friend, they was just running around crazy. And I'm like, you know what? That's what kids are supposed to be doing. Even though we, back in the day, we'd be like, go sit. If you don't go sit down.
Go sit down somewhere. Go sit down somewhere.
Sit down. So what are it's 8:00, so we're at the end of our interview, but I want you to give your final thoughts about autism to anyone who's listening right now.
All right. Final thoughts about autism. Autism is an ugly word. Like, black man, feminist, fascist. It's an ugly word. Why is it an ugly word? Because you're labeling somebody without understanding who that person is. We are in a society that loves to label things. It's within our culture. We label things. It's not going to die off. It's not going anywhere. How can we transform that labeling system into a more compassionate, understanding prefix in life? Is by understanding the person first. Welcome to our awesome world. This is a world where we don't deal with anger. We don't deal with hatred. We don't deal with a jealousy. What we deal with is compassion, is love, is empathy, is community, is lifting up. We are that community. My advice to anybody who is not willing to die to oneself in order to embark in our community, stay out there. And there's no offense to you, but I am here as a man, as a black man from the Black and brown community, to make sure that this community stays intact from the heart. I want everybody to come into this community. I would love the world to be the same way, but you got to meet me halfway. So if you would like to join us in this community and join this awesome experience called autism, then I will need you to die to yourself first and give me a call directly and be like, hey, Jay, I'm ready to learn about what children like your son and kids and adults all over the world are experiencing.
Where can everybody find you?
All right. So everybody can find me at The Awesome Show. Is on Instagram. It's TheAusomeshow. On Facebook, Instagram, and this Friday actually will be the first 2 episodes of our TV show on RVN Network. It's public access online streaming TV. It's available on Roku. Also too on any of smart television. You'll have it on there. You can check out The Awesome Show. I'm excited about that. Getting back in front of the interviews. Also too, you can check out all of this right. My first one, Life is a Puzzle. God gave you a cheat sheet. 15-day devotional for awesome fathers. I wrote this. How serious I am about helping somebody out there. Give biblical principles to every part of my life, what I experienced, but it's here to uplift you and challenge awesome fathers. Another one of my books that I want to quickly just name real quick. It's this one, Affirmations and Acknowledgments, Empowerment for Fathers of Awesome Children. Men, it is imperative that you journal. Write out your feelings. If you seem that you can't talk to your spouse, if you think that they won't understand, this is the journal that's for you. Why? I'm going to read you one of the titles that I have in the book. It's time to tell them. All right. You put in the work and I'm personally proud of you. But as we have heard before, words and actions are best served together. If this was your last thing you could write, what would it be? Take this time to write to your child and partner from your heart. I'm asking you these tough questions in here, just like a brother, just like a friend, to challenge you to be a better man, because I want you to fill this entire book out. And then 2 years later, I want you to come back to this book and see the growth that you did personally, and listen, I can talk all day.
It's okay. I love it.
Be encouraged, be empowered, be awesome. Don't let your children suffer in this world that seems to disagree with who they are individually, while others are imposed to do them and be you and be different. They are different. They're extraordinary. They're awesome.
Thank you so much. And on that note, we are all extraordinary. We are all different.
Yes.
Nobody has the same gifts and nobody has the same talents. Truth be told, I believe we're all on the spectrum. The spectrum is so wide. You know, my son's nonverbal. I believe we're all on the spectrum. There is somewhere where we all fall into the rainbow of the spectrum. Some of us are smarter in math. Some of us are smarter in English. Some of us are great entertainers. But we are a spectrum of people. No two children learn alike. No two children are the same. We have just put this label, like you said, on children who we can actually see who are affected by autism. But to some degree, I really believe we're all on the spectrum. So
Yep.
I thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I thank Nason's Place for bringing
Thank you,
this
Nason's Place.
together. If you would like to make a donation, please go to nasonsplace.org. Again, no donation is too big. We like them zeros.
Yep.
And no donation is too small because it all counts. So we'll
Yep.
see you next time. I thank you so much, Jamiel, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Yep.
Please go check out the awesome show. Make sure you check it out. Make sure if you have questions, you ask. He is here to answer. Fathers, if you need support, and I don't look like the support for you because I get it, please reach out to Jamiel on the Awesome Show. Please, he will support you through this. And anyone else who needs support, please go to nasonsplace.org. Check out all of our upcoming events. We have a lot of things going on. Jamiel will be at the Fathers Autism Support event that's coming up. So if you would like to meet him in person and you're an autism father, reach out to Nadine Abubakar at nasonsplace.org and meet us there. Okay, so thank you everybody for tuning in. Make sure if you are watching the replay, if you have any questions, reach out to us. We're willing to answer any questions, and we will be back on. I have to see you again. We have to do this again.
Let's do it again.
Soon.
Let's do it again.
For you who are listening, who don't have a child on the spectrum, April is Autism Awareness Month, but every day is Autism Awareness Day for our families. We love you guys. Peace and blessings, and we'll see you next time.
All right.